let's go into a little bit about this self-worth exercise because, we've been talking a lot about this identity shift, you know, and this is a really good exercise. And I'm not saying you guys need to do this right now. You guys can obviously go back and watch the replay of this video, but spend some time really meditating on these questions. And what does that mean? For example, well, hey, clear off any distractions. Don't be driving, don't have the kids running around, anything like that, cell phone ringing. It's like spend some time really focusing on this because you're going to get to some clarity, which is good. But clarity in one sense and clarity of where you're trying to get to are two different things. And what we need to kind of figure out to just help you is what is it that we want to try to get to that we're not at right now? And maybe it's something that's not serving us. Maybe it's something that's not beneficial to us. Maybe it's something that we need to grow, right? And we're going to talk about where that growth actually comes from here in a little bit, because that's what's going to get us to this 2.0 version of ourselves. So I'll quickly just go through this list. The self-worth exercise, it's 10 questions. The first one is, what are your strengths and talents? The second question is, what accomplishments are you proud of? Third is, how do you handle challenges and setbacks? Fourth is, what positive qualities do others see in you? Number five is, what are your values and principles? Six is, are you treating yourself with kindness and compassion? Seven is, how do you prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical well-being? So rate that from one being the lowest, 10 being the highest. Number eight is, are you pursuing goals and activities that align with your interests and passions? Nine is, how do you handle criticism and negative feedback? And then lastly, number 10, do you believe in your own potential and abilities? Because I think that's very clear and needs to be addressed here. So what I was kind of going over with Mark was let's just say that all of these answers that we get, and let's just sum this up as it's where we're at right now. This is our self, this is our self-worth, this is our identity, this is everything that we kind of want to, focusing on, right? But let's just say that we're trying to become somebody else. For example, like how do you handle criticism and negative feedback? Maybe initially, like the first thing is you're angry about it, or maybe you're upset. Somebody says something to you and you're angry about it, you're upset, or maybe you get discouraged, maybe you take it the wrong way, whatever. It's pulling at your emotions a little bit. But maybe that 2.0 version of yourself, they got some cleaning up, right? They're not in that state where if somebody says something to them and it's negative, it's, some criticism, maybe they're looking at that as like, well, thank you. Like I'm really glad you said that. And I'll use myself for example, not trying to be prideful and boast this by any means, but like I get a lot of people that's like on my Facebook ads that talk crap, right? Guys with the biggest man boobs and the biggest bellies you'll ever see, but yet they'll comment on my photos and say I'm either photoshopped, I'm taking steroids, like they'll say all the negative things under the sun, right? And then I love the guys that say, "Oh, you might have a nice body, but you got an ugly face, you got a big nose," right? And I'm like, I love it, right? I absolutely love that stuff. And the reason why, it's because in the past, I used to be very, very, very emotional. Like you step on a sunflower and I'm crying, right? Like that used to be me. Now today, right? Like when somebody says something or whatever, I don't care at all. And I think it's because of I like to say the past that I've been through. I've had a lot of good things, but I've also had a lot of bad things. You guys know I had a very traumatic experience back when I was 22 years old. Also a lot of ups and downs and relationships, business, everything like that, to where it's like, having somebody say something that is a keyboard warrior that I'll never see ever, and they're obviously just pissed off about themselves, I would never take that as like oh man, like I need to be upset, right? And cry me a river because this person said this. No, I use that as fuel. I use that as motivation to just say, well, thanks, right? It makes me want to even like work even harder, be even better. But I challenge you guys to focus on going through this exercise, getting to where we're at now, and then focusing on that 2.0 version. What would be different? And it doesn't need to be everything. Maybe it's just one or two things, but who knows? Like maybe you're one or two things away from this 2.0 version of yourself. Bill, we talked about being 3 feet from gold, right? Talking about a completely different topic, but I'll still use that as an analogy. It's like, what if you're so close to breaking your potential, but maybe there's just one or two things just holding you back and you don't know it yet, and maybe you don't see it. So this exercise can be really good for just clarity purposes. Now, one thing that I want to get into that I think is going to help you guys out, and we're definitely going to have probably a part two to this. It's creating your alter ego. And I don't want that to come off as a bad thing. I want that to be more so of like, oh, what does this actually mean? And you can take this as a, video game character. You can take this as your own superhero, right? Like something like that. And to give you guys like an analogy, this is what I shared with Coach Mark earlier. Um, Growing up, I love playing basketball, still love playing basketball, but growing up specifically, when I would be outside in my parents' backyard, we had like a garage with a backboard and a basketball hoop like attached to it. I would always pretend I'd be out there shooting that I was Allen Iverson. He was my favorite player growing up. Loved the guy to death. Like he was just awesome, right? Shorter, amazing handles. I loved his sleeve that he was always wearing. Like he was great. I always pretended like I was Allen Iverson, how he was doing his fade back, everything like that. Well, fast forward to where I'm at now in my 30s, if me and my son are going outside just shooting hoops in our backyard, I'm still pretending like I'm Allen Iverson. Like it never left me. It's just like that alter ego of like who I am playing basketball. I looked up to him. I wanted to be like him. I tried everything to mimic him. He was like a role model in my eyes, to where it's like, hey, still playing the game now. I still try to pretend like I'm Allen Iverson, just having fun with it, you know? And so it gets to a point where, your identity can shift from two different ways. Okay. And I think that when me and Coach Mark, we had this conversation, it was maybe a light bulb moment for you, Mark, but maybe it was also a light bulb moment for me also, because I've never said it in a way where it made so much clarity to me. So, how does somebody's identity shift? First one is you can create it of your own, right? I just kind of mentioned about Allen Iverson playing basketball, et cetera, shifting that identity, or you can change your environments. And a good analogy for you guys to think about with this is that my son, he's 5 years old. He does not know any Italian at all, right? If let's say I just shipped him off to Italy and he spent a whole year with just nothing but, Italian native speakers over there, he's going to come back and he's going to know some Italian, a lot more than I definitely know. Why? Because you're taking, right, that person and you're putting them into a completely different environment. This is why I always tell you guys and anybody that signs up for our coaching program, if you want to get the best results, be a part of the community groups. Hey, ask some questions in there, be involved, join the Zoom chats whenever you get a chance, watch the replays. The more you're involved in that environment, the quicker your identity is going to shift. But there's also this over here with the alter ego that I kind of mentioned about Allen Iverson. Hey, I'm still in my 30s shooting hoops, pretending like I'm Allen Iverson. It never left. So the next exercise that I want to go over with you guys, on a different live coaching call is creating your alter ego to where, hey, when life throws you these curveballs, you're more looking in terms of like, who is this alter ego and how do they handle this? And the reason why I think this is so important, so clear for you guys to really kind of dial in and focus on is that we talk a lot about feeding the good wolf versus the bad wolf. Okay. And this might be a little wake up call for some of you guys, honestly. And some of you guys might think that, hey, you're, working out, you're doing these things, you're showing up, you're feeding the good wolf, right? Well, sure, you definitely are. But I like to say it like this. Those are maybe like little Scooby snacks. Okay. And I want this to come off very clear and very serious for you guys, because if you understand this could be the one thing that you needed to hear today to really shift your mindset, your perspective on this, especially when life throws you some challenges. And we all face challenges, whether it's our work, our finances, our health, our relationships. That's life in general. So really pay close attention to this, okay? So let's say you're showing up, you're doing what you got to do, right? And maybe those are just Scooby snacks. Just like, hey, saying little fibs here and there, joking around, lies, little Scooby snacks, right? But the reality is this: when life throws you these challenges, like the hard challenges, this is when you're really feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf. It's not when life's easy, because remember, anybody can do anything when life's easy. Hey, life's great. You got money in the bank. You got a great career. You got great relationships. Hey, let's focus on, making some changes to our health and start eating healthier and working out instantly. Like, hey, life's great. We already got these positive endorphins. But it's like, hey, what if you're dealing with, some struggles at work? What if you're dealing with some struggles in your relationship? But also, what if like you have type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you realize you need to do something here. You got kids, and it's like, oh man, now it's making it 10 times harder. That's what I mean about what are you going to do with feeding the good wolf or feeding the bad wolf? Because it's those times where you're not just checking off the boxes. It's those times you're feeding a big steak, right? To either the good wolf or to either the bad wolf. It's the big portions. It's not the little Scooby snacks anymore. So I want you guys to really think about that. When you're dealing with any kind of pain, suffering, adversity, this is where having like these little exercises come into such a handy little like tidbit where having these questions, printing them off, having somewhere where it's a reminder like, okay, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to become this guy. Well, if I'm going to become this guy, you realize this person, they need to die pretty much. I mean, that's a serious thing. And so, how does somebody or something dies? Well, they usually go through, stress, adversity. They go through like challenges. They get thrown obstacles and obstacles and obstacles and obstacles their way to take them off their course and try to kill them. So maybe these things that we kind of look at, right, when life throws us these challenges, maybe it's actually something that's pushing us closer to this over here, the 2.0 version of. But how are you viewing those things? Because remember, when you're faced with these challenges, you're always going to have an opportunity. And that's the best way to kind of look at these challenges as opportunities. You can say, okay, hey, I can go back and do this, what I always do. So let's say something is out of my control, it's out of my hair, I can't control it at all. So what happens? We deal with these negative emotions of anxiety, doubt, worry, and fear because we have no self-control. So we're left with some options there. Hey, maybe I can go into this addiction, right? Maybe it's like drugs, alcohol, pornography. Maybe it's bad eating habits, right? Just going AWOL, right? Whatever the case may be, because we want to focus on something we can control. We want to focus on gaining that power because we don't have any power in the midst of this storm, this obstacle. But what we really need to do is take a step back and observe the bigger picture. Am I in control over this? Yes or no? If I am, what can I do? If I can't control this situation, why am I feeling this way? And that's all we really need to do is just do a self-assessment. And just by asking yourself a few simple questions, that's it. Why am I feeling this worry? Why am I feeling this doubt? Oh, well, this might happen in the future. Oh, this might happen in the future. So that means these mind games that also a future, meaning that, hey, I'm not even promised tomorrow. So this might happen a year from now or a few months from now, but I might get hit by a car tomorrow. So why am I worried about it right now? And I know this is a lot easier said than done, but anything in life takes practice. So start practicing today. When life is throwing you these hardships and these, storms, instead of getting so upset about it and going back to what doesn't serve you, instead look at it as an opportunity to say, okay, I keep on getting faced with this challenge and this challenge and this challenge and this challenge. Instead of this being this, negative thing, what if it's actually a positive thing? What if it's like life in general is trying to teach me something and I just keep on failing the test over and over and over again? And maybe that's me getting sucked into my negative emotions. Maybe that's me constantly getting worried and fearful, whatever the case may be. Maybe that's me trying to control a situation that's completely outside of my control. But regardless, I keep on getting hit with these same storms over and over and over again. So instead, why don't I do something about it this time and learn the lesson? Because there's always going to be a lesson in the midst of the pain. That's just the reality. That's just how it is. But it's all going to start with how we view it as more of an opportunity rather than a challenge, and just taking a step back and just do a quick self-assessment, asking some questions to yourself and just being real. Because like anything in life that is causing you to feel a way where, hey, it's either negative or it's either positive, you're always going to be in a way where you can control those emotions. So what do I mean by that, right? So to make this a little bit easier, well, way back in the day, this was my second girlfriend. Yeah, yeah, second girlfriend. We had a bad relationship. Wasn't as bad as the third relationship, but regardless, it was still a nasty breakup that I did not want to go through at the time. And during that, I was also doing mixed martial arts. That's when I started my MMA career. So every time I was feeling like I wasn't worthy enough because she broke up with me, I wasn't good enough, I didn't have self-love, all this, negative emotions, I could have either sat there in my bedroom, cry me a river, right? And drown in my own sorrows, which doesn't serve anybody or anything. All it does is just cause more pain, cause more suffering. Or I can focus on doing something that's going to be more of a positive. And that's what I did. And so what I would do is just, I didn't care if it was snowing, I didn't care if it was raining, whatever the case may be. I would walk my sorry butt out to the garage where I had my heavy bag, and I would just start hitting that heavy bag as hard as I can until I didn't care anymore. So it's like when life is throwing you these challenges, once again, it could be anything: relationships, finances, careers, health, anything like that. How are you going to start transferring that energy into something more positive? Because I bet you anything, this 2.0 version of yourself, they're probably handling those challenges a little bit different than maybe how you are right now. You know, right here, question number 3: how do you handle challenges and setbacks? So, whenever you guys get a chance, dive into this. And it's not going to be exactly the easiest thing to start doing, but nonetheless, it's a learning experience where you're going to start learning about yourself. You're going to start learning about, um, you know, maybe what it is that you truly want over here that's in this corner, this 2.0 version of yourself. And maybe if we just get more in alignment with that person who we really want to become, maybe we can start shifting some things happening in our own life. Maybe we can also have a different mindset perspective when life starts throwing us more curveballs and obstacles. We can start looking at them as, like I said, opportunities.